All right, today we're going to talk about a massive, and I mean massive, problem in our industry. It's called the software illusion, and it's all about why these incredible software foundations, the ones we build to last forever, seem to inevitably get stuck and fail. The whole idea kicks off with this really powerful statement. It's a direct challenge to a belief that, let's be honest, most of us have, that we can build the perfect foundation just once. It's a comforting thought, but it might just be an illusion, and a ridiculously expensive one at that. So let's start with a story that, well, it probably sounds a little too familiar. You've got this once dominant company, they're smart, they're profitable, they're at the top of their game, but then, slowly, they just stop evolving. Parts of their product feel totally frozen, like a digital fossil. Now, this isn't because they lost their talent, it's a failure of structure. So the real question is, why do these great systems get so completely stuck? And here it is. Here's the culprit. The very thing that made them so strong and successful in the first place, this beautiful, unified, clean foundation, eventually became their biggest weakness. Every tiny change rippled across the whole system. Every new feature made testing a nightmare. The system, which was designed for stability, completely lost its ability to move. And that really gets us to the heart of the issue here, what we're calling the Great Foundation Myth. It's this deep-seated belief that we can engineer our way to a permanent solution, that we can build one perfect platform that will make us fast and safe forever. But here's the thing. Software just doesn't work like a building. Okay, so if we're not dealing with a building, what's the force that's actually causing all this decay? Well, the answer comes straight from physics. It's entropy. This is the silent killer of our software systems. It's a force that's way more fundamental than just technical debt, and it's the reason that great systems don't just fail, they freeze solid. Now, this is super important. Solution entropy isn't about sloppy code or bad decisions. Not at all. It's simply the effective time expressed through constant change. The business needs something new. The market shifts. New tech comes out. This pressure just builds and builds constantly. You can slow it down for sure, but you can never, ever stop it. Time always wins. Let me give you a real-world example of how this plays out. Think about something like a feature store. Year 1, it feels like the biggest win ever, a perfect shared platform for everyone. But year 3, things are getting a little complicated. But hey, it's still manageable. But then you hit year 5, and the pain is real. The amount of stuff you have to test has exploded. Just thinking about the system is overwhelming, and suddenly your main job is just maintenance. The system is now slow, expensive, and frankly, scary to change. And this, right here, is the tragic irony of it all. The foundation, the very thing we built to make our lives easier and to make change faster, has completely flipped its purpose. It's now the biggest bottleneck we have. It's the number one reason that change is so slow and so expensive. So what on earth do we do about it? So if entropy is basically a law of nature, what do? Just give up? No, we have to pivot to a totally new way of thinking about this. And it's not about just trying to refactor a little harder. We need to embrace what's called the metabolism solution. You know, we often think that if we're just disciplined enough with refactoring, everything will be fine. But in most big companies, it's just a painkiller. It's not the cure. It only happens when things get so painful that we have to do something. And because big companies are terrified of letting anything actually die, we just end up patching old broken parts and keeping all the complexity. You get this zombie renewal. The system is technically still running, but it has zero agility. It's the walking dead of software. This really requires a huge shift in our worldview. We have to stop thinking about software as a building that we construct to be permanent and stable. Instead, we have to start seeing it as a living organism. And what's the goal of an organism? Not permanence, it's survival. And what's the key to survival? Not stability, it's adaptation. In this new world, a big, heavy foundation isn't an asset you protect, it's a liability you have to manage. And this is the absolute core principle of software metabolism. The identity of your system isn't the code. The code is temporary, it's disposable. The real identity is the contract it offers to the world. The APIs, the protocols, the expectations your users have. So the goal becomes keeping that contract rock solid, while designing the system so that the code on the inside can change, die, and be replaced whenever it needs to be. Okay, that's the big idea. Sounds cool, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? How do we actually go about designing for renewal? What does a system with a high metabolism even look like? Well, first, we have to understand the trap that so many organizations are stuck in. It's a vicious cycle. It starts with a system that gets messy and slow. So what's the diagnosis? We need a stronger foundation. So they centralize and build a bigger, heavier one. But that new foundation just creates rigidity and becomes a new bottleneck. Then the organization's immune system kicks in. We call it shadow IT, where teams create workarounds just to get their jobs done. Finally, leadership looks at the mess and says, well, I guess the last foundation just wasn't designed well enough. And they restart the whole miserable cycle. To break out of that cycle, we need a totally new set of principles. We need to make our foundations as thin as humanly possible, only containing the stuff that absolutely has to be stable, the contracts. We have to let different parts of the system live and die on their own timelines. And this is the big one. We have to treat rebuilding parts of our system not as some five-alarm fire, but as a normal, budgeted, routine part of doing business. We turn existential risk into just another Tuesday. And that brings us to our final section. This new way of thinking isn't just a nice idea anymore. It's literally becoming essential for survival. The future is not about stability. It's all about adaptation. So why is this all happening now? You might be thinking, this sounds great, but rebuilding stuff is crazy expensive. And you know what? Historically, you'd be absolutely right. It was a massive risk. But AI is fundamentally changing the economics of this whole equation. All those painful renewal activities, scaffolding new services, refactoring old code, generating tests, migrating data, AI is making those things dramatically cheaper and faster. It doesn't get rid of entropy, but for the first time, it makes adaptation economically possible. So, this all boils down to one simple but really profound question that every single engineering leader needs to be asking. Look at your systems, your teams, your processes. Are you optimizing to keep your code stable? Or are you optimizing to make sure you can continuously deliver capability to your users no matter what changes in the world? Because the answer to that question is going to define your future. And that really is the core takeaway from all of this. Stop designing for permanence. It's a myth. It's an illusion. Instead, start designing for metabolism. Design for renewal. And I just want to leave you with this one last thought because it's so powerful. Our software is a living organism. And living things don't survive by refusing to change or die. They survive by constantly renewing themselves. So design your systems so that the individual parts can die gracefully, because that's the only way the whole system can keep on living, adapting, and actually thriving.